Good day, viewers. Welcome back to the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. That is I. Special day here at the Preaching Humanist show. I've got David Kile, my friend here in Austin. And David is the president of the Austin Humanist community. Welcome, David. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, David.
Shake my hand. The mic was blocking your view there. So David and I share the same passion, and every time we get together, we like to discuss our favorite topic, and that is promoting this beautiful worldview of secular humanism and atheism and secularism and agnosticism and the whole thing. So we both share a lot of passion. So David, I would like you to tell the viewers a little bit about your background, your bio, your religious background, and my favorite, I like to ask people about their deconversion story. So let's start way back. Well, for you, it's not way back in the day like me, but a little bit back in the day for your story. Yeah.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here and to, to share about our group and what we're doing. Regarding my personal experience with religion, I'd say it's possibly unusual for a lot of people in the secular world in that I had a really positive church experience growing up. I grew up in a Christian family and attended the same church my entire life. In fact, I still go back there when I'm home for the holidays. I play their Christmas service because I'm a trumpet player, and it's a great opportunity to play in front of people once or twice a year. Okay. However, I did find as I got a little older that that it was difficult to continue to accept the claims of religion. And eventually, I was in a kind of a weird place where I didn't really believe in God anymore, but found that I still enjoyed going to church, and I felt that they were good people, and I thought there was something going on there that couldn't be found elsewhere. And so there was definitely a time period where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Did I want to make myself believe even though I didn't? Did I want to fake it until I make it? Did I want to just, never tell anybody what I thought and go with it? And eventually I found that it's just not possible to live a lie, so to speak. Yeah. Even though I've honestly felt motivated to do so. So that was in my early 20s when when I ultimately decided, yes, I am a non-believer. I'm not a Christian. I still enjoy the culture of where I came from. I'm happy to see the people that I grew up with. I'm happy that, my family has, this really vibrant community to be a part of. But for me personally, it just didn't make sense to continue if I didn't actually share the beliefs and values. And I would say that having had this experience and wondering, well, why is it that you can't find this if you're not a believer, was one of the big motivations behind looking for a group like Austin Humanist Community.
Okay, good. I was going to get right back into what we really want to discuss is secular humanism, but there's one question. What, I guess on the Christian spectrum, as far as the church you were raised in, was it more of a moderate type church? Would you call it evangelical? In other words, how deep of the pool of Christianity did you had to swim out?
Yeah. So the church has a denomination, but it largely functions as a non-denominational church. It's not liberal or conservative. In fact, the lead pastor who's been there for I think about 15 years and who I admire a lot has made great efforts to be apolitical and to focus on, how do you live a good life. So, and my family has always been, despite being religious, there is always, reasonability, openness to science, where there was never any creationism.
Okay.
So that really made it not too difficult.
Yeah, so you were spared that hardcore indoctrination, which a lot of people have to get out of. It's really hard.
Yeah, that's right, and that's definitely something that that I have to be sensitive to, because sometimes as somebody who was, as far as I can tell, not traumatized by my religious experience. I need to be cognizant that there are very many people who had very different experiences, and and it's important to be mindful of how doing things a certain way can affect those people.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of we've discussed this before. There are a lot of wounded people out there that have been damaged by certain branches of Christianity and religion. But yeah, we want to go out there and help these people to heal up and bring them into some loving communities.
And just because you've been hurt by a church and by a religion doesn't mean that you can't still get something out of something that might look a little bit like that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So go and talk all about the Austin humanist community. So tell the viewers what happens on Sundays and your activities and so forth.
Sure. So Austin humanist community has been around for a few years now. It was originally part of the Oasis network. Now we are affiliated with the American Humanist Association, and we found that the label of humanist has really worked for us because it makes it clear what we're about, at least if you know what humanism is, and it makes it clear for our own members and leadership to to really put humanism at the center. With regards to what we do, we're a group that meets weekly, officially, every Sunday morning at Casa de Luz in downtown Austin.
The vegan restaurant.
Yes. It's a really lovely vegan restaurant that is entirely nonprofit and community driven.
Can I bring my coffee tomorrow morning when I get there?
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to
you can bring it into our room.
But not to, okay.
They are they're very big on whole foods, and they've been kind enough to to allow us to reserve one of their rooms on a long-term basis for a good price. So we love Casa de Luz. Our meetings themselves are they begin with announcements, like most meetup groups that meet on a regular basis. We have announcements. We bring a musician in every week who will play a few songs for us. Usually they are of a low-key acoustic nature.
Folk style?
Yeah,
folky?
yeah, Americana.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. We love our musicians. We've got a longtime member who's a pro musician and is very well networked. So she brings in some really good people, and many of them, come out saying that they really identify strongly with what we're doing, which we love. Then we'll have a community moment, which is where basically we open the floor to a member to talk for a few minutes about anything they want to. The idea being that, as humanists, we care about all facets of life, and as a community, we want to hear about what's going on in the lives of our members. So that's a really core element of, being a community and not just being a situation where we're passing down information to you. And then finally, we have a main speaker. And usually they'll talk on one of many topics. They might talk about some element of humanism. You're coming on our show tomorrow. Although
Tomorrow
I guess for the viewers it will be in the past.
Yeah, it will be the past, probably a month. Yeah.
But
when I'm coming back in another month. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll be talking about the values of secular humanism. We have talks on other things. We had a great talk about how to recycle effectively in Austin. Giving the actual technical information. If you live in this kind of community, here's how you can do it most effectively. We've had talks on how to structure your career in a way that fits your values. We've had talks on Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is one I did a few months ago. So it's really about embracing every facet of what makes life interesting.
I like that. That's a very important part of secular humanism, isn't it? It's about promoting the well-being of humanity and the aspects of the entire human experience.
Yeah.
Not just the logical, the rational, but also the emotional side, the arts, music, and so forth, literature, and the whole aspect of being human, enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Sunday mornings, you guys meet. Now, you've probably had this, David. Have you had people accuse you of copying church? Like there are a lot of our fellow agnostics and atheists and secular people out there that were once very Christian, and they find out about the Austin humanist community, some of the other humanist or oasis groups out there, and they would say, oh, it just drives me crazy. It's so much like church. I don't want to go back to church. It reminds me of church. Do you get that often?
Yeah, that is something we've gotten on occasion. I would, and I imagine that, many of the people who think that don't show up.
Yeah.
What I would say to somebody who's of that opinion is, I understand that people have had negative experiences in church. They might be totally turned off from the format, and that's okay. However, there is a reality that churches have been doing this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
They've been getting groups of people together to talk about their values, to learn things together, and to build a durable intergenerational community. And my take is in the mission of spreading secular humanism and of giving a place for humanists and secular people to belong. Yeah. If there's something we can learn from churches, no problem with that for me.
I'm with you, because when I talk to people out there on the weekends, when I tell them about your group or ACA or any of the other secular groups around here or Houston, wherever, I get that from people. They're like, well, I don't really, it's too churchy. I don't want it. I don't like the structure. I have my own structure. I have my own meetup group to go to. And I just tell them, it's okay. You don't have to come. But my experience, David, is for our secular tribe and group of people out there, it's probably not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Some people need it. Some people don't need it. But for those that need it, I agree with you that church has been doing this for a long time, and there's some good things about church. And that's what I tell believers. Hey, we share some of the same values you do just as humans, but this is just being a social species and allowing people to come together in a community. And that's the most important part of it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And what the thing that looks like church isn't just something that churches have done. It's something that's been around possibly, since humans started speaking in languages. The idea that you come together as a tribe, as a community, whether, it's around a campfire or, at the meeting room at Casa de Luz, you're coming together, you're sharing your values and culture, you're building these social bonds, and you're creating that sense of belonging that is, in my opinion, critical to surviving as a human.
Mm-hmm. I've answered a lot of the critics' questions on this little matter here, this fellow secular people that say, it's too much like church. I don't want to go. And I tell them, well, actually, there is some good in church, and some people don't want to hear that. The good part of church, some of us miss that part of church. The good part is just simply the cooperation of others, the meeting the needs of others, the organization together, the meals, the activities together, reaching out to needy people, feeding homeless people, all the things you do in a community. To me, that's just a good part of church. That's the part that I like. And you just minus the supernaturalism, right? And you throw the Bible out in the cross and all the supernaturalism, and you've got humanism.
And while we're on that note, I should mention we do a great many activities outside of our Sunday meetings. We have game nights and poker nights. We've had potlucks at our members' homes. We have a couple other group ideas in the works that we might be launching in the next couple months. And in fact, we have some people who only ever come to these events, and in our book, that's okay.
Sure.
You know, if you want to be part of the community, and you're cool with being in a secular humanist environment and interacting with people who share similar values, but you don't want to do the Sunday thing, go for it.
That's fine. And it's for people that like that, because we talked about this earlier today, and you and I have met for coffee several times the last few months, had great talks, but we've discussed this before, David, that there are at least 4 or 5 different non-believing or secular groups here in Austin. Houston's got a ton of them. I'm sure Dallas and San Antonio. We all have a different flavor and so forth. But to me, as a former evangelist, I always like growth. I want to bring people in. We should all of the groups here in Austin and any city around the world that's promoting a positive atheism and secular humanism should have a lot more people. I would love to see all the groups grow, because we all have our different niche and different styles, so we can reach different type people. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've seen in census data, nuns is a group that's continuing to grow. I believe it's in the 30s or 40% for people 30 and under. So it's rapidly growing, and I mean, my hypothesis is, right now maybe most of those people don't see the need for this kind of thing, or if they have the need, it's in the form of something more ethereal, like I'm lonely, I don't have a group of people to be with, but they're not necessarily thinking of what any specific one of our groups do, and honestly, I think it's our duty to reach out to these people and at least provide the opportunity for them to have a place where they can belong.
Absolutely. And they need to know about it. Yeah, I mean, I used to preach about that in the 70s and 80s. Let your light so shine. Get out there and bring them in. I mean, there's so many people, and they don't even know that there are groups like this out here. It's really amazing. I run into people like that all the time. So as the president of the Austin Humanist community, tell us what some of your main goals are for your group.
So our organization actually has a few primary goals that are part of our official documents. So I'll talk about those first, and then I'll talk about what my personal objectives are for the next couple of years. So our goals are first and foremost to serve our members. What that means is that, as a community organization, we want to make sure that it's a positive place for people to belong, that things like harassment are non-existent, and when they do happen are dealt with effectively. We want to make sure that, that we're providing the things that members want and meeting members' needs. Secondly is we want to serve the outer community. And what I mean by that is we want to be a part of making the world a better place, a part of making Austin locally a better place. Thinking about initiatives like helping the homeless, helping people in need, things of that nature, and that also includes outreach to people who are atheist, agnostic, secular, humanist, questioning, who are looking for something like this, and giving them the opportunity to be a part of it. And that also includes interacting with other secular groups in the region, and making sure that we're connected and supporting each other in our respective missions. Our third goal is called Lead with Humanism. And what that means is that in everything we do, we want humanist values to be front and center. And that really means the idea of being humanitarian, the idea of trying to live the fullest possible life, and also the idea of supporting science and reason, and with that fighting against bigotry towards seculars, especially when it's sponsored by public institutions. And then our fourth goal is this is what I call the boring one. It's have operational excellence. And what that means is we want to do everything in our organization in a good way. We want to, start on time, have everything go right each week that we meet, make sure that we're supporting the members properly and that we do things in a democratic way. We're an organization that is a democratically elected board, and that's really important to us. With regards to my personal goals, as we were just talking about, I think one of the biggest things is we in the community and we as secular humanists have something to offer the world that most people are either not aware of, or they don't fully understand what it is, or they don't understand how it can help them lead a better life.
Right.
And so with regards to that, I want our community to grow. I want us to interact more with the wider world of humanism. And I want to make sure that if someone is looking for this, if someone is secular and feels lonely, they feel like, they feel like the only place they could go to get what they're looking for is church, and they're tempted to do so because, they're in a situation like I used to be, thinking, well, maybe it would be better if I just faked it and went back to church. Then at least I'd have a group of people to belong with.
Right.
They need to know about what we're doing, and to that end, a big focus for our group is going to be this outreach side, making sure that people know we're here.
Absolutely. I love that. Excuse me. Boy, I'm getting all choked up here. Can secular humanism replace religion? I don't think we've ever discussed this before, but I study secular humanism a lot. I'm going to let you talk. I'm getting choked up.
So the American Humanist Association has something called the Humanist Manifesto, of which there have been 3 editions. The first edition, which was created in the 30s, I believe.
1933, first one, yeah.
Yeah. They referred to humanism as the religion of the future. And what they meant by that wasn't something of a supernatural nature. It's the idea that you need, or at least they believed, society needs a set of beliefs and ideals that bind people together and give us something to shoot for. So it's not just everyone for themselves. It's everyone for humanity as a whole, for the future of our species and the earth. And in some ways that's what religion is, right? Sure. So Christianity, it's the idea that you want to save the world from sin. That's the idea of Christianity. I don't personally believe in sin, but the idea that you want to make the world a better place and make it a world where people have their eyes on something higher than just my job or what am I gonna eat tomorrow for lunch? Yeah. Or all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a selfless type philosophy, isn't it? It's reaching out. It's not about our own lives. It's about reaching out. And I tell this to believers a lot, and they'll say, well, this sounds like Jesus. It sounds like Christianity. I'm like, well, it's just being human, right? That's what part of secular humanism is reaching out to others and maturing as more of a morally developed adult human being, ethics, morals, and sharing it with other people.
And I believe that this kind of, similar to the community side of things, this gets at some fundamental human needs. We live in this extremely complex world that can be overwhelming to people, and having a set of beliefs and ideals to lean on it's a way to stay sane and a way to know that there's a huge amount of moral ambiguity. There's so many different things you can focus your life on. At least I've got this set of guidelines that I can lean against. At least I've got a group of people who are thinking about something beyond themselves that I can be a part of.
And that's what a lot of believers think about those of us that are unbelievers, because their preachers, not all of them, will say things like, well, before you came to Christ, and they're talking to their sheep in the church, my dad used to do it, I used to do it, and a lot of the preachers still do it. Some do, especially on the right. They'll say, back when you were a very selfish person, and now you came to Jesus, and now you're selfless. Now you're thinking about others. And I hear that, it drives me crazy. And they don't know that we do the same thing they do, except without the supernatural. We care for other people. So it is important to let other people know what secular humanism is. Sad to say, there are actually some actual atheists that have never even studied it or understand the concept of secular humanism. So it's good for us to let everyone know.
Yeah, and I'd say when people are coming out of belief, it can be an easy trap to fall into. Perhaps they are frustrated that they lived a life of indoctrination for however many years. That can be a really difficult experience for people, and an understandable reaction would be to kind of remain focused on that one's entire life. And in many respects, it's good that there's people who do that, especially when it comes to things like standing up for the rights of secular people and the rights of all people to have laws and policies that are based on what will actually make their lives better.
Yes.
But that said, I think many people are looking for something beyond just, I want to talk about why religion is wrong and problematic. For me, and I think for many humanists, religion just isn't very relevant to us anymore. It's there's people over there who believe that if they are coming into a public space and telling me what I can or can't do, I take issue with that. But otherwise, what I want to focus on is what do I believe in?
Yes.
And what beliefs and practices will make the world a better place? Will help humanity to thrive in the long term? That's what I want to focus on personally.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, one more question. We have never discussed this one.
Okay.
This is going to be a good one for you. So here we go. You want to do a little drum roll on this last one. Here it goes. Okay. What does the future of the secular movement, of secular humanism, look like for you, David, Kyle?
What does the future of secular humanism look like?
No magic ball here or anything. Just your take on it.
Yeah. Well, I can talk about what I would like it to look like. Based on what I've seen so far, being a part of this movement for just a couple years now, I think there's a lot of really passionate people who want to make something happen more than what we're doing now, which is, we have disparate groups. We have some groups like ours. But I think a lot of people would like to see more of a movement. they'd like to live in a world where humanism's normalized to a point where you can say I'm a humanist and people get what that means. You don't just get a blank stare or a question like, so you like humans? And so that's a world I'd like to live in. I think we have a good chance of moving towards that. But I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of coordination. Yeah. Groups like ours don't have the kind of resources that organizations on the religious side have. You know, we can't send out a pastor on a full salary for a few months to plant a church. We don't, you know, we have national organizations like the American Humanist Association, which we're an affiliate organization of, and they provide some good resources, but there's not quite the level of coordination and of active, engaged leadership that churches have.
Right.
I think that if we can build that up, and maybe it has to be a grassroots thing, maybe it starts in groups like ours. If we can build that up, network together effectively, you know, make sure that we are working together and trying to build something, I think we've got a good chance of making a much better world, and one where secular people do have a place to belong, and where, you know, you don't have to come to Austin, Texas to find a group like ours. You know, you can live in a place that is, you know, often thought of as Christian dominated and still find your people. That to me would be a really great outcome.
And you're saying our people, your people. Our people are growing, like you said, in numbers. It's a slow movement. Not quite fast enough for me, but it is growing. And I, as an older guy, I like what you guys are doing. And I want to see, and I am seeing that in the different things I'm involved in, usually young people, yourself, millennials, Generation X, and I see, what do we got younger than you? We got X, Y, and Z? Yeah. So all the younger people catching hold of this movement, and I see more and more people getting involved. That makes me happy as an old guy. I get a little teary-eyed when I think about it. And I drive through the city of Austin, and I think I've told you this, David. I see these large buildings called churches, especially the ones that are like mega churches, and they provide all this great stuff for human beings and their families and communities. And I just look at these buildings, and I bet you think the same way I do. I just bet you do. I look at these buildings, and I see the name so-and-so church, right? And I'm thinking, why can't they just say either the Austin Humanist Community or ACA or something secular community in these buildings and build those groups? And I hope it comes to that one day. I know some people would disagree with me, and they think they don't need that. They have their own little clubs and meetup groups and all that, and that's fine. But I think for some people it's very important to do that. And to provide that need that so many people miss that were once involved in churches. And I think that secular humanism and the humanist communities and all these different secular communities popping up are extremely beneficial. And we have something, as you've heard my messages on my show, and I go out and speak, I just promote secular humanism far above and beyond religion. The values, the ethics, the morals, what we do, just so far advanced above and beyond the Bible and the Quran and so forth. So anything else you want to share before we close this thing up?
I guess I would just close by saying, you know, if you're in Austin and you're looking for something like us, or you're ever coming through the city, you know, feel free to stop by on a Sunday. We'll be there. You can check us out on Meetup, Facebook, and on our website, which is austinhumanist.org. Yeah, check us out, see what we're about, and you know, drop by, say hi, see if it's something that fits for you.
Yeah, you can bring your coffee too, huh? And the people won't get too mad at you next door. So, well, David, thanks a lot for coming on the show. You did great. And viewers, thanks again for watching the Preaching Humanist with David Oliverio. Have a wonderful day. Bye.